British organisation. They've won like multiple awards. Right, these guys did a study this month, March 2025. They called it Britain's Lost Boys, and it's talking about, it's no secret that men do worse in a lot of areas. There's been a huge push to ensure that women are given the same opportunities in every area, which is fantastic. But in a sense, in many ways, boys have been left behind. So education, they do a lot worse in education, more victims of violent crime. There's countless things that men are kind of disadvantaged about, and one of them was about the fact that they have less role models. There's less male role models. So if you go to a school, it's 80% made up from women teachers and fatherless figures without having a father. The impact that has on a young man is astounding, and that's
the school teacher thing. School teachers have always mostly been women.
Less so than they are now.
It's getting less
by this report, yeah. So it's doubled. The
amount of
compared to men has doubled, yeah. So the amount of men is halved.
Teachers.
Yeah, it's a woman here. There's fewer male teachers, yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that could make a difference, just because school teachers, you're not really paying that much attention to, right?
I don't know. It's part of your environment, though, isn't it? If you maybe I didn't think he was going to beat me. I was more scared of the alternative. I don't know. There's loads on the underlying threat of physicality. That's why taller people generally do better. Why do taller people do better than short people?
In what domain are we thinking?
The proportion of CEOs in America that are over 6 foot is about 60%.
60% of CEOs
in America
are over 6 foot.
But obviously, if you're over 6 foot, and earn over $100,000 a year, you make up 2.2% of the US population. So I don't know about just the height statistic. I'd assume about 10 to 15% of people in America are over 6 foot. But they make up 60% of CEOs. Then if you look at this even further, 40% of those are over like 6'3", 6'4". Why is that? Because I think I know why.
All right, enlighten us.
Underlying threat of physicality. So we're very primal beings still. We've not lost touch with that. Well, we have in a lot of ways with what we're surrounded with. But at the end of the day, we're still just cavemen. The way that we think and feel. If you are taller, generally you're going to be stronger. You have more you're more likely to win in a fight if it just came down to just beating the shit out of each other. Somebody who's taller would probably do better than somebody that's shorter. So there's always been an underlying threat of physicality. If someone's coming into your tribe, or if someone comes in, you feel more threatened by them if they were taller, and that's still underlying.
But I'm thinking, does it work in the reverse as well? Where if you're always a little bit taller, a few inches higher than everyone else, does that give you a little more confidence of interactions? Are you gonna then be a little bit more pushy or ask more often than you would have done if you were shorter?
Have you seen the shoes that people have made, like that add inches to your height? Konzuri. Yeah, Konzuri. Everywhere on my Instagram, maybe because I'm short.
Oh yeah. Is this something you'd consider?
Potentially. Yeah.
You've heard about the surgery for...
Oh yeah, like your leg extending surgery.
Yeah, the idea is they break your legs in different joints, in different points throughout, and then they strap you up, and then they start to separate out the bones so that there's tiny little gaps between the bricks, and then your bones grow in between the gaps. It's supposed to be incredibly painful and have crazy consequences, but I've heard it can add at least 3 inches.
Yeah, you'd be surprised at what those 3 inches would do.
I'll take your word for it, Matt.
3 inches is a lot in some ways. Well, those 3 inches in height, I'd be interested to see on average how much that would earn you per year as a male.
I wonder if we can do a per inch earning.
Per inch earning.
On height.
Let me just see. Percentage. I just want to get this CEO stat. CEOs in America.
Yeah, my assumption is because you're taller, you're going to be a little bit more outspoken and forward because you know you can take them.
In the US population, about 14.5%, so I said 10 to 15, 14.5% of all men are 6 feet or taller. Among CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, that number is 58%.
So how does the population of America compare?
So there's 14.5% are over 6 foot, 60% are CEOs of Fortune 500.
Hugely disproportionate.
Massively. So you've got to ask why that might be. Jordan Peterson says it's because of the underlying threat of physicality. And that's where I've got that from. I've just plucked it from thin air.
It makes sense.
There's so many things that we're out of touch with. Like from my caveman days. I could write a book on this.
Oh, yeah. But see, stuff like this about the height, this is not really of interest to me. Because I can't practically use it as information.
You could just get shin extended surgery.
Leg extension surgery. But that's the point. It's like, sure, being aware of it is great because then I can try and maybe offset it. Let's say I come across someone in a business setting who's a few inches tall. I'm thinking, all right, this guy's probably going to make some bigger moves because he's relying on his height as an advantage. And so I can maybe keep
strategize.
Keep that in mind when I'm negotiating or something. But for the most part, I can't really do it because height is fixed. And so I'll maybe shift it on what are the things that I can actually change and do.
I want to go off on that because another thing on the podcast that I was listening about this Centre for Social Justice was there was this woman that worked for Hinge, and there was data like around kind of women's preferences on men, and about 80% of them wanted a man that was over 6 foot. But then if you look, 15% of people are over 6 foot. So it's all these guys getting all the attention from women, and that leaves 85% of people. 85% of men on these dating apps not even getting a chance because they're under 6 foot. And then you've got, I think we were talking about like controlling the controllables and improving on areas that you can improve on. But the reason why I think there's potentially been a big push in the incel movement is that they can't control those things.
Okay, the underlying assumption here with that is that height is somehow a big impact, or plays a big impact on your success within the dating.
Yeah, 100% does.
That's the assumption, which I disagree with. Which I'll say, sure, or if it is something that matters, it can be one of the many things that impact you.
It's not the only thing that matters, but to say that it doesn't matter is...
It can be that or a million other things. Now, the incel guys who are bitter about not being 6 foot, I think that's a cope. Because sure, you can't change your height, so what else are you going to do? Yeah. Let's say if you've got a guy who's 5'11", but he's killing it in every other domain.
Sure.
He's shredded, he's making great money, he's super funny, he's got great character and personality. You tell me that most women are looking at him and saying, oh yeah, no, he's an inch below my standard.
No, but if you're 5'5", it's a different story, isn't it?
Why is it a different story?
You're going to have to overcompensate in other areas, potentially, unless you find someone that's really genuine and doesn't care about height as much as a lot of women do. Again, because they see a protector in somebody that's taller, with more of a physical threat. It's ingrained into their DNA to want somebody that's bigger, stronger, more of a protector than they are.
And so the conclusion for the 5'5" guy is what?
You got to find other areas to provide in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, sure, you got a little unlucky with the genetic lottery, but that just means you got to work even harder to find other areas you can excel.
That can be hard though, especially if you're a younger kid. Like, it takes a bit of emotional maturity to not be salty in that situation. So the immediate kind of reaction to getting rejected is to either give up or become resentful, right? Okay,
I haven't spoken to many young guys about their experience dating, so you're shedding light on this for me.
Another one in this study, 18... I'm going to have to remember this off the top of my head. Let's say 50% of people 18 to 24, up to the age of 24, had never even asked a woman out.
Why do you think that is?
Out of fear of rejection.
Okay.
Rejection is so important, though. You learn the most when you get rejected. I've never been rejected. My ex rejected me like 3 times before I got over that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So you're living proof of this concept of persistence is key.
Yeah, I think also what's difficult is that there's not many situations, or there's less so situations, where it's a communal group where a woman has the chance to fall in love with you or start developing feelings for you. So you used to have like church and like social groups, and everyone would go out and do things together, all as a big kind of community, like a mix of boys and girls. Those are getting less and less and less. There's less incentive. Now you've got porn, like men can just go home, have a wank. Like there's no incentive to go out and meet people. There's an easy cop out. You can just go home, have an unlimited database, pretty much unlimited database of all the most attractive women in the world at your fingertips. So there's less incentive to put yourself in situations where you are going to meet these people. And when you don't put yourself in those situations, of course, you're not going to develop, and a woman's not going to get that chance to fall in love with you because women are stubborn. Like compared to us, we're head over heels, Romeo syndrome.
News, guys.
We'll fall in like head over heels, or like we'll get like really strong feelings quickly because we want to spread our seed. Whereas women have always had to genetically be more selective about who their partner is. Right? If they choose to sleep with somebody before contraception, they ran the risk of bearing that person's child. So they've always been longer to break down. But now we have less of these situations where you can put yourself into, where women are exposed to us for long enough to give us a real chance and see. You can find other ways to impress them rather than just straight physicality. Like humor is obviously a big one.
And I would even dial it back to say that having your focus be to finding a partner or a woman is the wrong way to go about it, especially for a young guy. As a young guy, your number one sole priority should be to better yourself in every way that you can. If it's your personality, if it's your confidence, your communication skills, whatever it is, that should be a core focus. And then the consequence of that will be that you attract more potential partners because you've demonstrated competency. Because for women, that is ultimately what they judge you on across those different domains. So height is a good one because it demonstrates competency of safety, right? And you can have other areas of competency like financial competency to show you built a business or a career or something that shows, all right, he's smart, he's going to be able to provide or take care of things if things go south. Or the other one is the social competency. How good are you in a social setting? Can you communicate well? Can you handle different social scenarios with ease and grace? All these things you can build independently of the desire of getting with women and become a more well-rounded human. And then the consequence of that will be you become a more attractive partner to potential mates.
That's why I think it's so important when people say, like, take some time to work on yourself. Because if you go out there and look for somebody straight away, you're gonna get somebody much objectively worse than the person that you would get if you spent 6 months working on yourself and you valued yourself more, so you thought that you were worth more in a partner.
Yeah, so you'd find someone proportionately valued. And the idea of taking some time to work on yourself, I don't really agree with. I think working on yourself is a lifelong endeavor.
Yeah, all time should be working.
Yeah, for me personally, if I'm not moving forward or improving, then I lose interest or motivation in something.
It's easier to fall out of sync with self-improvement when you are in a comfortable relationship, especially when you're younger.
This has not been my experience.
When you've been younger, that's why I specified, like, now you kind of got the clockwork moving. If you were to get into a relationship now, you're very much on that kind of growth mindset path and self-development path. But when you're younger and you have everything kind of, you're having like loads of sex for the first time, like you've got things, you don't really have to worry about rent, like food, things like that if you're at home.
Has this been your experience? Have you had?
Well, I've become very comfortable. I've just been like, yeah, like I've got everything at the moment. You lose that drive, so if you're having sex a lot, then you have less testosterone, less dopamine. It's like mission accomplished. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Have you not had that experience?
It's. I definitely know what you mean. It's that once the comforts start to creep in, then your desire for change starts to get less and less. Because you're like, why would I subject myself to more discomfort, like waking up early, like working out, or eating healthy food and avoiding all the junk, when I can feel good all the time like this? But this is something we were talking about last time, where indulgence dulls your senses, and you start to get a little numb to it after a while. Where it's always comfortable, it's always nice, and how nice it is becomes less and less because you get desensitized to it. Whereas sex once a week, I feel like that hits differently compared to every day. And so now I'm practicing deliberate temperance, where I'm not treating myself to something because I know by not having it now or not doing it now, I'm going to enjoy it even more later on.
And you get a bit less addicted to it as well. Like when you say you have sex for you have sex for a week, sometimes at the end of that week, I don't really care if I have sex or not. But if I'm having sex like 2 or 3 times a day, which it has been in the past.
For the past 6 months?
If you're having sex like 2 or 3 times a day, like you want it more. Like you just lying there, you just kind of get bored. You want that dopamine hit because your brain's so like accustomed to getting it frequently. But if you give it a while, you don't even care.
That's it. And I was thinking about this in a bigger picture where you go through life and you get all these temptations and desires coming at you, whether it's sex, food, comfort, all these kinds of indulgences. And let's say you got a goal or a mission. It would be crazy for me to think, I am now going to go completely off path. I'm going to give up my goal and the thing that I'm working towards just because I happen to get this craving or urge coming in from outside. That sounds so ridiculous when I put it that way.
It's
And
not
so
cool though.
I'm trying to reframe it that I should be immune to anything external that tries to influence me. There should be a single mission and goal, and everything outside of that should not impact where I'm going or how I'm going there.
I saw a video of John Mayer. He's like a famous guitarist, singer-songwriter. He does like Gravity, Your Body's a Wonderland. Have you heard of him? He was dating Katy Perry at one point. He was talking about his journey going sober. So he was like, how did you go sober? And he was like, well, one day I asked myself, like, do I want to be, what if I could be a percentage of John?
Oh yeah. Wait a minute. I sent you this video, mate.
Did you?
I did, and he's like, "What percentage of your potential or your outcomes
Did you send me that?
do you make? Because you were going crazy on liquor."
No, this was like a couple of days ago. I saw it.
Did you?
Yeah, yeah.
I think
This is a different guy.
I sent it to you like months ago.
All right, well, I'm going to restart my story because this is a different one. It's like, yeah, I don't think it's the same one.
Okay.
But it's kind of the same. It's going to have the same ending. But like, if you could choose to be a percentage of yourself, what percentage would you choose? Easy, 100. What's the way that it stops? You're stopping yourself from doing that. Him was by drinking. And then he was talking about his experience of stopping drinking completely. And he said it's really boring at the start. So a lot of people don't realise when you cut out booze, it's fucking boring compared to what you were doing. Like, you have to find things to replace that high. And he described it as having a benchmark, and this benchmark being boring. It's just pretty dead. But then after time, you build this up. So your benchmark of happiness is just higher and higher and higher, but it takes a long time to do that. And people usually will stop drinking for a while and just stay at that level. Once you start achieving things that you really put your mind to and you start seeing growth in other areas, your baseline happiness just keeps improving and improving and improving. And even I've not done it long enough to really experience my full potential and reach that level of happiness that I know that I could.
All right, so let's flip the script and say, what level of yourself are you aiming for?
I'm aiming for 100%, I suppose, but
you're not that bothered about it.
not as bothered as he is. No.
Oh yeah,
He was, yeah.
that's interesting because to me, anything less than 100 is a complete failure.
Yeah.
But I guess that shows maybe your priorities are elsewhere.
Potentially. I don't have like a massive goal at the moment, which is maybe why goals are important. You know, I don't have an end goal. I think without your goal, which, you know, we've spoken about your goals a bit. Like, I kind of know what your vision looks like and what you want to achieve. That's something that is making you not being 100% completely inexcusable. Whereas I don't really have that. Like, I'm still kind of enjoying myself for the time being. I'd say I'm like, I still want to be at like 80, 90%. But to not have everything ironed out just yet is okay for me.
That's cool. And part of the process is kind of figuring it out. I think of it as like seasons where you kind of go in one direction for a while. And then at the end of that, you're like, okay, now I know myself and where I'm going a bit better. I mean, I didn't get to this point until almost 30. After going through lots of different wrong directions and bad choices, I'm now at a point where I'm like, okay, now I've got a fairly good idea where I'm going. But even this is maybe not the end goal or a definite end place I want to go. It's more like, this is a vague direction. And as long as I'm heading in there, the end result is going to get it clearer and clearer the closer I get to it.
Yeah, this is a journey, isn't it? You don't fix it overnight. If I woke up tomorrow and I was like, right, I'm going to be 100% from now on, I wouldn't do it. Because I don't want it enough. I'd have to be forcing that want. Yeah. You've got to find out why you want it first.
I know. I think for me, because my goals are so big, I know they're not achievable if I'm not at 100%.
There we are. Yeah.
And so that is like my check every day. I'm like, if I'm okay with not being at 100%, then I won't have my goals. I'd have to compromise on this.
Which is maybe why setting goals is important.
Yeah, I know you're not a big fan of this.
No, I don't like structure at all.
Goals, planning. And this is one thing that usually the approach we have in these conversations is like a debate, right? We both have two different perspectives. But on this one, you're absolutely wrong.
I think I am. Yeah.
Because I was thinking, like, how crazy... Because I've never heard of this before. Right? And I was thinking, why is it so stupid? And I was like, all right, let's say you're in a relationship and your woman's like, oh, it'd be nice if Matt planned something for once. Oh wait, he doesn't like planning. Or you have a kid, and she's like, oh, I hope Matt, remembers to take this hour or plan this thing we were hoping to do together. Oh wait, Matt doesn't plan. In every sort of circumstance I can think of, it requires planning to be a functional.
My justification for it is that, if I don't plan, I'm still going to be doing better than most people. I'm still going to do this fucking Ironman without planning for it. And I'm still going to do all my washing and do all my ironing, eat well, and do my shopping without planning it. I've never had to do that. And as soon as I start planning for things, like planning my workouts, for example, I don't enjoy them anymore. That runs the risk of me not going to the gym. So, do you see where I'm coming from? If I could have the discipline to be planned and stick with it, then it would benefit me. I'm aware of that.
That's cool. Because now we're at the stage where you're recognizing it. Before it was abject rejection of planning. Now it's more like, okay, I recognize that planning could make things better.
No, I said that last time.
No, last time you did that.
That's not true. We got it clipped, bro.
I'm gonna play it back for you. But last time you definitely like.
I'll play it back for you.
Fuck planning. I got this on freestyle or something.
Yeah, I've still got it on freestyle though. Like it would. There's no part of my life that wouldn't be better if I started planning things a little bit more.
Okay, in which case now it's just more about a skill set issue.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
At the moment, because the effort is going to be more than the anticipated reward. So when that side shifts, and you're like, okay, now the effort of planning is going to pay off for the reward. That'll be fine. We just have to stick it out. And as someone who's working on this project together with you, I'm also feeling the consequences with someone who doesn't enjoy planning.
Listen, man, I was sick once. I'm still not 100%. That's all it is. You milked that enough now. You said he's disappointed in me like 4 times. It's like, got one dad already, bro. Come on.
Anyway.
I'm not that unplanned with things.
But are we? Do you have anything else to add on planning? Because there was a couple of other points that I was wanting to run past you.
Yeah. I did try and think of an argument for you thinking that every decision was self-centered. Okay, so I actually read in the book that I'm reading, and he said the exact same thing, and I still don't agree with it.
Oh, and what was this book?
I can't remember. What was it called? I've got it in my room. How to Make Friends and Influence People.
Dale Carnegie.
Yeah, at the start of it. He talks about like how every decision that you make is because you gain more utility from the choice that you make and for no other reason. That's not true. I don't believe in that.
Okay, do you have anything to back that up?
So you gave me one which was giving your life for somebody else.
Yeah, but that doesn't count because you're not alive to experience the outcome.
So why would you do it? You're saying that every decision you do because you gain more utility from doing it.
So in that example of, let's say, killing yourself or not doing it, the alternative is you don't do it, and then you live with the guilt of feeling awful because you didn't do it.
What about if it was a stranger?
It still counts.
You still feel guilty about not doing it.
But why would you do it then?
Because you want to protect somebody. You feel like.
Why would you protect the stranger then?
Well, exactly. This is where.
But this is the thing. Like you wouldn't do it for a stranger.
All right. Another one is if your dog was if you were gonna. I don't know.
If your dog is sick and you got to put it down.
No. I had one. I can't remember.
Love this planning.
I was thinking about it. It wasn't like something that I've written down, but yeah. Anyway.
But why? I tell you, we'll go back to a deeper question around this, which is why do you think this is not true? Or like, what difference does it make? Surely this is better because now everyone's decisions or motivations are perfectly clear.
Because it completely destroys the idea of people being good and caring about other people.
But you can still be good and wanting.
But you wouldn't care, like the idea of like care without any kind of selfish benefit. Like you can care for people unconditionally, and the love for them and the actions that you do for them can be out of a place of care for them rather than out of gaining utility from it, which is where I disagree with you.
No, that makes sense, but it's still ultimately driven by self-interest.
I disagree because
in that example, let's say you care for someone where you're really selfless in how you look after them. The benefit you get is how good you feel and the positive emotions you experience when you look after them. Otherwise, you would do.
Maybe. I think that, like, I'm quite an emotional person. Like, if I care for somebody, like, I don't think about myself at all when I'm doing it. Like, I want to just make sure that they're okay in an action. I'm trying to think of something.
But the motivation is not that, right? The motivation isn't I want to feel good.
Well, exactly.
But I'm saying that is why it's done though, because subconsciously afterwards you will feel good afterwards.
Yeah, but that I don't think that's the driving force because you're not thinking about it at the time.
You're not thinking deliberately, subconsciously.
You're saying it's subconscious.
It's always subconscious, yeah. And I actually think that's an even better thing because it means you're really attuned with how you feel after you do certain things. And the ultimate caring, selfless, or really generous, kind person is the one who feels good after helping others. That's why he does it a lot.
Everyone feels good after helping others.
Not necessarily.
Most people do, unless you're a psychopath.
Or you just don't get that much benefit from it. So I know people who
Do you?
Yeah, 100%. I get a lot of benefit from it. But I know people who are a lot more self-centered, and for them, that action-reward kind of interaction is skewed in the other direction. They could help someone, just not feel that great, and so they don't do it.
I just really struggle to grasp the fact that, the decisions are even subconsciously driven by oneself. I find that really hard to wrap my head around because I like to believe that you can care for something enough to do it, to do actions not out of your own self-interest. Which is, in my mind, your theory is denying that possibility.
Okay, I'm trying to think another way that I could phrase this.
I think we're going to go around in circles with this one all day. I don't think...
Sometimes you can find an angle or a perspective that just like cracks it open.
Potentially.
Now I see it.
You nearly had me with things being subconscious, but...
Because I'm the same. I'm not thinking, how do I feel or how will I feel after I do this thing? But
you think that's what drives the decision, is your subconscious feeling of feeling better after, rather than the fact that you care for them.
Let's think about...
Or can they be both? Can it be both?
Well, I'm never thinking about myself in the moment.
Sure, but you think that's driven by selfish feelings?
Well,
subconscious.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't think it is. I think it's driven out of our love for something else, which is a chemical reaction, which,
All right, let's go with that. It's a chemical reaction, and how does that work?
So when you see somebody, you release dopamine. It's like an addiction, isn't it?
Oh, serotonin is
serotonin, yeah.
Right. And so what happens after that? The release of those hormones.
You feel what happens afterwards.
Yeah, like you meet someone that you love, and then you get that dopamine and serotonin flooding through your body. What happens? Like, how are you feeling?
Good.
Yeah, you're feeling fucking great.
Yeah.
And therefore, you buy someone some flowers, you do something kind and generous, and you get the same response. Like the hormones throw from
yeah.
You're like, I see this person who I care about doing better, happier, and now I feel good about myself.
Yeah.
So self-driven.
So for those, yeah. But then if you're saying like you're gonna give, let's use the example of shit you're gonna give your life for that person. That's not it.
It's a really tricky example because I can't relate to that one too clearly because I haven't had the opportunity to do it.
Would you give your life for anyone, do you think?
It's a tough one.
And give it for me.
Always not.
Yes. I don't know. I think it would be tough for family, like your brothers.
But that's the thing, because if you had to live with the guilt of knowing that you could have saved a
God both lived,
right?
So
and you didn't do it. Now that's the question, right? Can you tolerate that guilt and that self-loathing?
What's the biggest thing that you felt guilty about ever? Oh, that's a fucking deep question. That one.
Man, most of the things that I regret or felt bad about are lies, insincerity, not being open and honest about things that I wanted or did, because then it has misplaced expectations, then people get hurt. And usually the reason I lied was to protect people, or I was thinking it was the delusion that I was going to protect someone, but really it was out of fear because I couldn't deal with the truth.
Lying's horrible, man. It's more stressful for yourself than anyone else. Like, you think lying other people are going to be thinking about what you lied about? No. You're going to be thinking about what you lied about. And if it's a big enough lie and a bad enough lie, that lie's going to drive you insane.
That's it. That was actually the big shift that helped me completely eradicate lying, was to think, wait a minute, what does lying say about me? How do I feel when I'm carrying all this insincerity and dishonesty with me? And I was realizing this is a heavy burden to be carrying around all the time.
It's horrible. Do you mind me asking what the lie was?
Oh, there wasn't even one, man. It's mostly things like in relationships, or that's probably the big one. Lying to the people closest to you,
Yeah, that's tough.
right? It's like when you're not open and honest about things you do and the things you want, and people get hurt. That's when things get. Everyone's unhappy with that.
You see this all the time with addicts. Don't like if you're addicted to something, then you can lie about not doing it and covering it up, even though because you think that you're going to protect somebody because of it. But actually, if you're just honest with them, you can come up with a plan to until you're in a place where you don't have to do it again.
Have
But
you?
soon-
Sorry, Neil.
No, don't.
Have you also been trying to cut out lying, or is this something?
Yeah, I wrote a song about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Can we get a little sample?
Yeah, so I wonder when it started, maybe when I was 9, I'd tell all the other kids I liked what they like.
Nice.
Talk about the football and the things on TV, so I lied about having the channels that weren't free.
That's quality.
Thank you. And then it goes like, I don't know how many lies I've told in total. I don't know how many times I said I love you. I don't know how many times, basically I told this girl I loved her when I didn't, and then I felt awful for it.
And this was when you were 9?
It's a chronological, it's progression.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I feel really strongly about lying because I used to lie compulsively at school. I just used to chat so much shit, especially in primary school. I was that kid who was like, I don't know, I can't even think of like stupid lies, and you got to think why that might be. I think maybe biologically some people are just more prone to lying.
I don't agree with that.
I think it's all environmental.
It's all environmental, yeah.
Yeah.
And as a kid, there's no real consequences to lying.
That's true. It's
You
just
say
fun.
anything, and
We're both quite like adventurous, kind of
I was
pushing the boat up.
like, I wonder what happens if I just say this thing. Like, wow, they believe me. Great.
There's countless studies to show how bad other people are at identifying when somebody is lying.
Oh yeah.
Like, we're awful at it. We can't do it. It was a behavioral psychologist, the woman who was playing poker.
Is this a lie? Are you trying to?
Yeah, just like, this behavioral psychologist I was telling you about who became like a world leader in the poker field.
Okay, yeah.
So she was talking on a podcast, and she was talking about how humans just don't have the ability to tell if somebody's lying or not. You can train yourself and you can get better at it. Like, there was this woman I was listening to who was in the SAS, and she said the same thing. Like, you can use polygraphs and everything, but at the end of the day, like, it was really hard to tell when somebody's lying.
And yeah, this is a cool one.
That was all bullshit.
That's gonna be such a good clip. Because there used to be training programs on something called micro expression training. That in maybe like early 2000, where there was a psychologist who would record people's face and have them say something, and he would pick out different parts of their facial expressions, like their eyebrows, their lips, their cheeks, or whatever. And he used to say like, "Oh, you can pick up on when someone's lying or being deceptive." And it turns out, again, complete bullshit, because the data was skewed, and it turns out people can actually say whatever, because we don't have the capability to pick up on all those millions of little details that someone is lying or not.
Surely everyone does different things as well when they're lying, you know?
And the extension of this is going to be something like when someone isn't necessarily lying, but you misinterpret what they're saying. So this is basically an extension of that, right? Where you can't quite tell what their facial expression or their body language is communicating. And there's a story of this, I think he's a journalist or something, Malcolm Gladwell, who writes this book about how you misinterpret interactions with people. And there's a story of a cop who pulls over a black woman who's on the way back from some work conference.
Yeah.
And he's like, "All right, now we need you to get out the car." And she's immediately spressed. She's been pulled over by the police, and she goes to light a cigarette, right? And for the cop, he takes that as a sign of disrespect. He's like, "I've asked you to get out the car and stop the engine, and you just ignore me and just like this."
She's just stressed.
She's stressed.
I think I've heard about this as well. Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, I'm stressed. I need something to cool me down." And already they're at an impasse where they're mismatched in their communication. He's like, "Put that out. I need you to get out the car." And now she's like, "I really need to calm myself down. I need to have a cigarette, have some nicotine so I can relax." And already now they're misreading each other's communication. Things escalate to the point where this woman is shot and killed.
It wasn't a cigarette, it was a gun.
It was actually,
This is a real story.
it's a real story.
Shit, man.
And then she gets killed because this thing escalates just from that little
I
interaction.
feel awful for making a joke now. Yeah, sorry. No, you're right though. Like it's
And I think about that when I'm having interactions with people. Sometimes my mind will jump to conclusions about what I think that person was saying or doing or trying to say. And my ego will try and protect me, or my insecurities will come out. They'll say something like, oh, that was so rude of that person, or can't believe they did that, or why would he say something like that? And then I'll think, hold on a second, do I actually know that's what the intention was? Do I know that's what they were saying or doing? Or is it really just I'm interpreting that a certain way based on my own ego and my own insecurities? And I'll think I could just flip the script rather than say, why would that person say that to me? I'll just flip it and say something like, oh, that person's maybe a little bit confused about what's going on. In one of those, I just change the word round, and my interpretation of an event is completely different.
yeah, that's wild. I think that's why it's a problem that a lot of our communication's over text as well. Because if you think it's hard to interpret things correctly when you're in person and speaking face to face, try getting a text through.
This is why I hate digital communication.
It's tough though because it's so widely accepted now. It's a mainstream form of communication. Like whether it's group chats at work, whether it's group chats of friends, you might think in a joke with a group of boys, for example, like people love our way of showing love for each other. A lot of the time is taking the piss out of each other. It's very light-hearted. No one will get offended. But bring a group chat into it, and you're sat at home and you're having a bad day, and then this guy's taking the piss out of you. Which if you're all sat together, you'd have that kind of, if it is like a hit on the shoulder, kind of to reassure you that it's just a bit of a joke, or the eye contact, things like that. That's removed now. You're in a situation where this guy's just said something when you're feeling pissed off already, which he wouldn't have been able to see, that's pissed you off even further with no kind of punctuation or kind of animation behind it. So it's so dangerous.
Yeah, no, I get that. And so I guess we're kind of in the same age bracket, but for your generation,
You wish, mate.
are people using text more and digital communication? You're
Well,
saying digital communication as a
I did such a grandpa. Do people use this digital communication very frequently? People don't write letters anymore. I think even though we've got like 3 years apart, but that means I'll mix with people that are 3 years younger than me as well, which would be a lot more unusual for you. So I will see.
Hold on, why is that?
It would be more unusual because you'll generally have different interests, right?
Potentially, I guess.
Generally, I'm not saying.
I'm very agile in the circles I move in.
Yeah, right. It would be more unusual for you to meet somebody 6
guess
years
so.
younger than me.
And
Just
you know
as
what?
it,
All the 21-year-olds, they don't go to Pilates.
exactly. That's what I mean. Most of the things that you do for yourself now are focused around growth.
That's true. And
Which-
if I did want to meet 21-year-olds, I'd go to some cheap bars,
Exactly.
which I'm not averse to do.
Well, I think there's more of a movement of trying to improve yourself. So you might see more younger people in Pilates and stuff like that, to be honest. But at the moment, it'd be more likely, for me, I have a bit more of a tendency to go out and stuff like that than you do. So I'm more likely to see people that are 3 years younger than me than you are at 6
And
years.
so the conversations you're having with these people, are you still feeling like you're on the same wavelength?
I'd never felt like I've been on everyone's wavelength.
I also get that vibe from you.
I've always had a soft spot for like people that don't get along with other people.
Okay.
Um,
Outcasts, yeah.
yeah, but even though I've never been one, really.
Because you're quite the popular kid around town.
Not at work necessarily. At the moment, this was the first job where I've struggled. Before that, like at school, I was always really popular at both schools that I've been to. Through primary school, it was a mix, but like after that, you know, I've never had like real trouble making friends with people. But even when I was like at my most popular, which was probably sometime around like college, sixth form,
That was,
yeah, I was friends with people that, and not everyone was friends with at all. And those were some of my favourite people because they were different, and most of them doing really, really well now.
Man, this is something I was actually thinking about how the bigger your social circle is, the harder it is to have opinions or beliefs or do things differently than them. Because it's like each additional person in your social circle kind of reinforces the groupthink that's there. And you've had some experience of this, right? Where if you present some ideas that are outside of... Now, actually, just to backtrack, I could start tomorrow thinking something completely different and controversial. Nobody gives a fuck. I don't have to maintain relationships with really anyone. And if my ideas are a little bit out there, people think, oh, Abram's just a little bit crazy again. But when you're in a tightly knit social circle, when you start to step out the bounds a little bit, people start to get a little uncomfortable. They're like, hold on, that's not what we believe here. That's not the status quo that's accepted. And this is the trade-off of having that community and social circle, but less room to be intellectually flexible.
I'm always intellectually flexible, which is where I've lost friendship groups before. Like this girl, and like there's various people that come to mind where I've lost friends for speaking my mind, and I've not been offensive either. People need to learn to not take offense to things. That's a huge problem.
We were talking about this last time, right? About how neither of us can remember the last time we were offended by something.
No, like openly debate it. Stop getting so caught up in your way of thinking and feeling. You get butthurt by things that you shouldn't, don't even relate to you. I'm just trying to have an open conversation.
You're called out now.
There was this dude speaking. He goes around America, setting up stands and kind of talking about how the left are a problem.
Preachings on the street stuff?
Not like preaching. He goes to university campuses and speaks to them.
Actual lectures.
He's Christian. He's anti-abortion. He doesn't give lectures. He kind of sets up a tent. Anyway, one of the things that he's talking about is the amount of crime committed by black people in America relative to their population. He brings this up, and everyone is just so oppressed about it. There's other things that he brings up. So he talks about abortion, like how rape victims shouldn't be aborted.
Why? What's the reason behind that?
Why rape victims shouldn't be aborted.
Yeah.
So he believes it's the denial for an opportunity of life. Right. I'm not saying I agree with all of his beliefs, by the way. I'm just putting them out.
I thought that's why you brought it up.
No.
What's your take on that?
Abortion.
In the case of the rape victim.
Well, what was interesting to see was a rape victim, the daughter of somebody that was a rape victim came to the mic and she was like, I want to be here. Like, if you guys are saying...
Oh, she was the
product of a rape.
Right.
That sounds really bad. But yeah, she'd been given birth to by somebody that was raped as a result of that rape, and she was like, you know, if I'd been aborted, like, how is that fair? Like, I want to be here. I love my life. I'm doing fine.
There's a bit of a selection bias going on here, where I don't know what it's like growing up as a victim, or I think is it a byproduct? I don't know what the correct term is, right? As a child of but how many of those people have some like serious problems?
100%.
Maybe they're struggling with addiction or mental health problems, and so they're not turning up to universities to talk about how great their life is because they're all reclusive.
Listen, don't get me wrong. She's 100% an anomaly, but who is anybody to decide whether we can deny that opportunity for somebody? I think is the point that he argues, is that yes, the chances are they're going to have a tough life, but at least they will have a life. And who are you to decide that they shouldn't be able to have that life? I'm pro-abortion. I think abortion should be legal. So I'm just trying to see both sides.
I don't think as a side note, the correct term isn't pro-abortion.
I love abortion.
It's like, I think it's pro-choice.
Is it pro-choice?
Yeah.
Oh, pro-abortion.
You can be anti-abortion. You can't be pro-abortion because
you can't.
Like abort all the babies.
Sorry, get cancelled for saying pro-abortion.